The port surveillance system logged a Mexican-flagged vessel moving off course and transmitting encrypted radio signals from the midship section. The report was immediately escalated to the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI), and a deployment order was issued the same day: intercept, board, and secure the vessel before the cargo could be offloaded. The task force was mobilized under the cover of a routine customs inspection, synchronized in 3 teams: boarding, dockside security, and technical support, all acting according to established operational procedures. As the gangway lowered to the ship's side, the boarding team moved onto the deck in a tight formation, using machinery pallets for temporary cover. Just steps before reaching the forward compartment, a cargo container near the bow unexpectedly detonated. A pressure wedge mechanism was triggered as a pressure trap. Shrapnel flew, railings were warped, 2 agents were injured, and the starboard side suffered significant damage. The operational command immediately shifted to emergency mode: seize control of the ship, preserve lives, and maintain the scene as evidence. The crew, all Mexican nationals, along with a group of armed guards, mounted a systematic response. They used pallets and machinery crates as fortifications, positioning assault rifles at access points and deploying a light machine gun in the midship section. Firing positions were established along the main approach axis, with secondary posts covering the rear along the container corridor. Their objective was clear: buy time for offshore reinforcement or for the destruction of evidence. The defensive posture demonstrated professionalism, organized observation, communication, and rotational fire to maintain a suppression burst. The FBI's assault squad shifted to a controlled counterattack. Small teams rapidly advanced through the thin smoke from the explosion to establish secure positions, maintaining formation while deploying target marking measures. A sniper team took up a high position on a port crane, providing observation and precision fire support. A light armored vehicle was moved close to the hull to act as a shield for the next maneuver, ready to fire warning bursts at exposed weapon positions. The initial engagement was short but intense. Selective fire neutralized exposed firing points. 1 guard was incapacitated while attempting to shoot from a hidden position, and the rest either fell into disarray or surrendered. While the forward deck was temporarily secured, the midship area remained high risk. Narrow passageways and container stacks created a deep defensive posture, potentially concealing mechanical and sensor-based traps. The technical team was ordered to apply the safe cargo opening protocol: thermal scan, chemical concentration measurement, seal verification, and sample collection before cutting the seals. The first 10 containers were legitimate, corresponding to declared industrial machinery. Subsequent containers showed signs of tampering, false seals, non-standard bolts, and weld marks. Upon opening the 12th bay, technicians discovered a pressure-sensing wedge mechanism, the type of device only found in high-value, concealed contraband systems. The Explosive Ordnance Disposal (EOD) team neutralized the mechanism and collected samples, immediately forwarding them to the mobile lab set up on the pier. All actions were videotaped and sealed as evidence: drone data, close-up photos, chemical samples, and the log of seals for each container. The mobile command center redistributed forces, increased sniper presence on the crane, repositioned the armored vehicle to the port side, and issued an order for an offshore perimeter lockdown to neutralize any resupply routes. Port radar detected a small skiff attempting to slip past the ship's side. The dockside security team deployed standard warning fire, forcing the skiff to change course and retreat from the area. All port access routes were sealed. Civilian traffic was evacuated from the operational zone. Initial casualties were noted: 2 agents injured, 1 guard incapacitated, and shipside damage from the explosion. The injured were given immediate first aid and transferred to the tactical medical unit. Risk mitigation continued to be the priority. The task force showed no signs of diminished resolve. The command was clear: lock down all escape routes, preserve evidence, and prepare for the next phase of cargo inspection. The evidence collected so far was strong enough to elevate the level of investigation. This was an organized smuggling vessel using an industrial cargo cover to conceal a large-scale shipment of illicit goods, requiring the full deployment of resources that day. The decision was made: a controlled sequence of cargo inspection, prioritizing the neutralization of any dangerous mechanisms, while collecting evidence according to the chain of custody protocol. The technical team deployed a range of thermal scanners, chemical sensors, and bomb disposal robots. Internal drones dropped infrared cameras into the container corridors to identify hotspots before human personnel approached. Every seal cut, every lid lifted, was marked, cross-signed, and photographed up close. All samples were collected using specialized gloves, packaged, sealed, and transferred to the mobile lab on the pier. The first containers were fully consistent with the declaration: machinery parts, industrial components, with valid commercial stamps on the surfaces. However, deeper into the sequence, the signs of tampering became more apparent. Altered bolts, seals covered with a thin layer of paint to conceal cutting marks, and temporary welding between compartments. Upon opening the 12th container, the chemical scanner reported a high reaction level. Rapid testing yielded a positive result for methamphetamine and synthetic derivatives. The technician immediately noted the concealment structure, a thin false metal wall, beneath which was a wooden buffer layer and numerous tightly compressed nylon bags. The next maneuver was executed using a two-layer protocol. One team was responsible for cutting the seals and filming. The other stood at a safe distance to neutralize the mechanical, pressure-sensing mechanisms. The EOD team dealt with a series of sophisticated sensor mechanisms, a pressure-sensing wedge, a thermal timer, and several remote detonators that had been disengaged. All deactivated devices were sealed, coded, and stored as physical evidence. The central computer log showed that the serial numbers on the mechanisms matched industrial design templates, but the fine-tuning allowed them to serve the purpose of concealing contraband. When the 13th container was opened, the scene changed completely. The false wall was removed, revealing long rows of packaged blocks wrapped in tarpaulin and affixed with industrial-looking stamps. Each item was numbered with a serial code and included assembly instructions, as if the recipient on the other end only needed to perform the assembly steps to reconstitute the product. The preliminary assessment team conducted a quick weigh-in. The weight of each block varied, with the estimated total gross weight exceeding 7 tons. Samples sent to the lab yielded a multi-component analysis result: methamphetamine, refined cocaine, and a lethal amount of synthetic fentanyl if distributed wholesale. The tactical situation off deck was not static. The midship area still had concealed firing positions. Several containers showed abnormal heat traces, raising the alarm for potential self-destruct mechanisms. The sniper team on the crane continuously reported target coordinates, and the armored team was ready to fire warning shots if any attempt was made to move cargo off the side. Command issued a strict lockdown order. All offloading activity was suspended until the area was absolutely secure or until every item had been processed. From the collected data, the Signal Analysis Unit detected intermittent satellite data packets and short bursts of non-standard frequency communications. Some communication equipment indicated a link to a mainland location in the southern Los Angeles area. The Financial Investigation Team began a parallel task: scanning the accompanying documents, matching serial numbers, tracing the origin of invoices and intermediary company addresses. Electronic files found in a secret compartment showed money transfers routed through a chain of shell companies in Central America and then into anonymous accounts in the United States. Small, scattered transfers were used to mask the large-scale movement of goods. During the cargo inspection, a side compartment was improperly activated, leading to a change in pressure and the localized triggering of a heat sensor. A small explosion occurred, collapsing the container frame and causing minor injuries to one EOD technician. The field medical team intervened immediately, providing first aid and transferring the victim to the medical station. The incident forced the commander to adjust the plan, increase the use of robots and drones, and minimize direct human access. Personnel would only perform maneuvers that could not be replaced by equipment. Meanwhile, the offshore blockade team detected an attempt by a small skiff from the sea to sneak in. The radar system provided continuous updates, and the Maritime Patrol Force fired illumination flares and warning shots as per procedure to prevent reinforcement from approaching. The land routes around the port were also sealed, and commercial trucks and civilian vehicles were evacuated from the risk zone. The entire pier area was placed under centralized surveillance. Cameras were directed to the command center, and all data streams were encrypted and stored. The initial evidence collected was sufficient to confirm this was an organized shipment utilizing high-level camouflage techniques and a sophisticated financial network. The order from the campaign commander was to expand the investigation immediately that day, preparing the next step to trace the onshore coordinators and neutralize all reinforcement channels. Subsequent actions would be synchronized between shipboard operations, perimeter lockdown, and financial investigation, with the single objective to neutralize the entire smuggling chain. As the assault teams stabilized their positions on the deck, the campaign commander shifted focus to tracing the shoreside link to lock down the coordination source. Signal analysis and electronic intelligence teams collaborated, piecing together satellite data with preliminary financial records. A communications chain was exposed, leading to a strip of warehouses in an area controlled by the Morales cartel. The order: do not allow the target to escape the framework, establish a perimeter lockdown, deploy simultaneous arrest warrants, and prepare the infiltration and breach plan. Federal SWAT units and local FBI special task forces were directed to the location, alongside the DEA team in charge of the financial aspects. A road lockdown ring was established. Light armored vehicles blocked the main arteries. Checkpoints were erected at all entrances and exits, and static reconnaissance teams moved in armored vehicles to approach the hot zone. Surveillance drones provided continuous aerial observation and thermal imaging. The electronic warfare team deployed a total mobile network jammer to isolate the target, preventing any emergency communication. The approach to the target was divided into 3 directions: securing the front, breaching the rear door, and blocking the suspected tunnel entrance. The breach team, equipped with ballistic shields, flashbangs, and rapid hydraulic breach tools, received the order for a synchronized assault. The EOD team stood ready to deal with improvised traps. Chemical and field medical teams prepared for immediate intervention. Every maneuver followed the rehearsed scenario, synchronized, decisive, to minimize the time the adversary had to organize a response. When the breach order was given, the teams moved simultaneously. The lead team used standard flashbangs to open the way into the front yard. The side door was forced open with hydraulic equipment. The assault teams flooded in, neutralizing mobile firing positions. The adversary countered with assault rifles and grenade launchers, placing snipers on the roof and in the alleys. The defensive objective was to stall for time to allow Rafael El Jaguar Morales to retreat via the suspected tunnel. In the initial phase, there were casualties. 1 agent was hit by shrapnel. 2 civilians suffered concussion from the blast pressure and required on-site first aid. The multi-agency response was a coordinated effort of selective fire and combined auxiliary tools. Armored vehicles fired warning rounds at exposed firing positions. Snipers eliminated observable targets. The EOD team disarmed traps placed in the pathways. The chemical team neutralized containers of flammable liquids. While one assault team pushed into the inner courtyard, another breached the tunnel entrance with remote-controlled robots and ground-penetrating radar. Accessing the tunnel system was the priority, as intelligence indicated it was the main retreat route. Inside the compound, the cartel security detail had established dense layers of defense. Makeshift barricades using cargo crates, obstacles created by trucks, and a sensor alarm system linked to a satellite point. A large explosion in a side bay collapsed part of the roof, generating thick smoke and chaos. In the confusion, a group of guards executed the task of clearing the way for El Jaguar to evacuate through the hidden tunnel entrance behind the house. They used obstacles and concentrated fire to block the advance of the assault teams, sacrificing themselves to ensure the boss's escape route. The tactical decision was made: tighten the perimeter while opening the capture point at the end of the tunnel. Ground-penetrating radar and robotic probes were mobilized to sweep for the subterranean route. K9 units and thermal imaging determined human presence in the old conduit system. However, the gang was well prepared: trap doors, extended piping, and an exit through an adjacent cold storage facility reduced the effectiveness of an immediate pursuit. Upon detecting the target moving in the tunnel, the response teams gave chase. A brief exchange of fire occurred at the final exit. The assault team's reaction forced several cartel gunmen to be killed or surrender. However, in the chaos, subsequent reconnaissance confirmed that Rafael El Jaguar Morales had passed through a secure section and temporarily escaped the cordon, at least in this tactical moment. The compound was quickly secured, numerous weapons and evidence were confiscated, and the remaining guards were incapacitated or arrested. The tactical medical team entered to manage casualties, moving the injured to safety. All movements were recorded, and the collected data provided critical waypoints for the next phase of the manhunt. The command center ordered an expansion of the pursuit radius, a lockdown of the surrounding industrial area, and coordination with federal units to block major routes. The goal was to turn every escape path into a trap leading to capture. Reconnaissance teams positively identified the steel warehouse, a concrete and steel structure deep within the industrial park, with 4 armed pickup trucks mounted with machine guns in the yard and snipers on the roof. The campaign commander immediately ordered the deployment of heavy assets. 2 light armored vehicles moved to blocking positions. Sniper teams secured observation high ground, and assault teams prepared to breach the perimeter. The single objective was clearly assigned: secure the warehouse, neutralize all firing positions, and block all entrances to the tunnel system. The initial assault opened with selective suppression fire. Armored vehicles fired warning bursts at exposed positions, aiming to force the adversaries to take cover and reduce their accurate firing capability. Snipers remotely neutralized observation posts one by one, allowing the assault squad to rush in using smoke cover. 2 breach directions were deployed simultaneously, one forcing the main door with hydraulic equipment, the other approaching the roof for a top-down entry. All movements were covered by thermal imaging data and drone coordinates sent back to the command center. Inside, the cartel security detail had prepared fortifications, wooden crates, pallets, trucks as obstacles, and flammable liquid containers positioned as defensive layers. They used assault rifles, grenade launchers, and light machine guns to defend the main corridor. Simultaneously, several gunmen were positioned around the trapdoor, leading to the deep tunnel. Their objective was to stretch the attack teams long enough to clear the way for the boss to slip into the secondary subterranean route. The defensive spirit and discipline were evident in their rotational fire and rapid change of firing positions. As the main breach team blasted the door open, close quarters combat erupted. Assault teams used standard flashbangs to momentarily disable defensive points. The rapid breach team used hydraulic equipment to bend the steel door. White smoke from the flashbangs thickened, and the assault teams flooded the corridor, systematically clearing firing points. One agent was hit by shrapnel from an improvised explosive device (IED) in the corridor but was quickly stabilized. Field medics intervened, stabilizing his condition before moving him to a secure location. The EOD team continuously swept the routes, neutralizing several IEDs attached near the doors. The roof breach team converged with the main force, creating a multi-directional threat. Within a few minutes of maximum pressure, the defending forces began to falter. Many gunmen were incapacitated, and the rest retreated toward the cold storage area and the tunnel trapdoor. In the meantime, another group of guards activated a diversion, throwing smoke grenades and setting off a false alarm system to confuse the overhead drone operators, then immediately opening the tunnel door for the boss to descend. The command center ordered a tightening of the cordon. Ground-penetrating radar and robotic probes rushed to the target to sweep for the tunnel, while sniper teams secured expected exit points. K-9 units and thermal imaging confirmed human presence in the old conduit system. The rapid breach team opened the trapdoor with a robot, deploying an internal camera to verify the direction of travel. The special task force detected movement toward a steel door leading to the old container yard, a sign that a prepared escape route existed. Upon detecting the exit, a small cartel team made a last stand at the trapdoor, using suppressive fire to cover the retreat. Snipers immediately locked onto key targets. Precision fire broke the firing line, causing the security team to lose organizational capability. Concurrently, the main assault force pushed up, securing the mezzanine and locking down access points. Several guards were captured alive, and numerous weapons and gear were confiscated on the spot. In the adjacent cold storage facility, a small group of guards managed to open the tunnel door to usher Rafael Jaguar Morales into a deeper subterranean route. Although the majority of the defending force was defeated, this effort was enough to allow the boss to separate from the initial attack wave. When the pursuit team stormed the cold storage facility, only footprints and several discarded suitcases full of cash remained evidence that the target had just left the scene through a concealed sub-level exit. The warehouse battleground was cleared within an hour. Many guards were incapacitated. Dozens of members were arrested, and a cache of weapons including assault rifles, light machine guns, several grenade launchers, and hundreds of ammunition magazines were seized. Medical teams were mobilized to treat the numerous injured. Some were transferred to the hospital, and there were no reports of serious civilian casualties. All cases were logged and handled according to procedure. Armored vehicles moved into the warehouse, establishing a security perimeter and blocking all exits. The tactical outcome was clear. The warehouse was neutralized, a large cache of evidence was seized, but the main target Rafael Jaguar Morales had temporarily escaped via the well-prepared tunnel system. The campaign commander immediately directed an expansion of the pursuit into the network of underground tunnels and the old container yard, intensifying electronic and financial intelligence to prevent the boss from having time to reorganize. When internal radar and surveillance drones confirmed the tunnel exit behind the cold storage facility, the command center immediately activated the deep pursuit protocol. The order was unequivocal. Lock down the entire industrial park, preventing any vehicle from escaping the perimeter. All units in the area shifted to emergency operational status. The rapid response team advanced to the main tunnel entrance. The steel trapdoor was covered with a layer of cold paint and oil dust, showing fresh signs of use. Explosive Ordnance Disposal, EOD, robots moved first. Scanning for pressure and electrical signals. Data transmitted back showed an underground tunnel nearly 10 meters deep, extending over 300 meters, connecting to the old container yard. This system was likely a pre-built secret retreat route for the cartel. On the surface, sniper teams moved to high ground, establishing posts along traffic axes. Light armored vehicles formed a barricade, blocking all exits to the main road. Patrol teams, coordinating with federal police, established a 2-kilometer no-fly zone, ensuring the cartel's remote control signals could not reach any hidden explosives or vehicles. All civilian activity around the industrial park was suspended, and tactical ambulances and evidence collection trucks were pre-positioned outside the security perimeter. Internal drones descended further into the tunnel shaft. Thermal cameras scanned 3 continuous heat signatures confirmed as Rafael El Jaguar Morales and 2 bodyguards. They were carrying heavy objects, moving in an organized manner, indicating they were carrying valuable cargo or documents. The distance to the pursuit team was less than 500 meters. The data was synchronized to the operational map, showing every curve and every junction with auxiliary pipes. The commander looked at the screen and ordered a split formation. One team to directly assault the main tunnel, the other to circle to the container yard to block the exit. The cold storage area and adjacent workshop were quickly searched. Technical teams found several fresh traces, tire marks, electrical wires, and a small control panel connected to a ventilation system, all indicating that the tunnel was not just an escape route, but also a storage or transfer point for goods. Several small scorch marks near the steel trapdoor proved the cartel had activated a local self-destruct mechanism but had not completed the sequence in time. All electrical systems were isolated to ensure the safety of the personnel descending into the tunnel. On the command deck, the tactical map was divided into 3 layers. The outer ring for road lockdown, the middle ring for industrial park containment, and the inner ring for subterranean operations. Forces coordinated between the FBI, SWAT, and DEA were clearly delegated. All data was streamed live to the large screen in the mobile command vehicle. The technical team had completed setting up a separate transmission line to prevent frequency congestion in the tunnel. The vanguard team was fully equipped: assault rifles, ballistic shields, infrared lights, motion sensors, and small drones for thermal detection. Flashbangs, supplemental air tanks, and hydraulic breach tools were prepared in their gear bags. Each agent carried a reserve oxygen tank, with the expected operational time in the tunnel not exceeding 45 minutes. Before descending, the commander reiterated the rule. Priority is to capture Morales alive. Seize data and evidence intact. All suspicious mechanisms must be neutralized remotely, with no direct intervention. The recorded command log was retained as evidence. The teams completed their checks of weapons, ammunition, signals, and confirmed formation codes. The drone reported a slight signal interference at the end of the tunnel, likely due to the cartel's navigation equipment still being active. The electronic warfare team activated a low-frequency jamming system to neutralize all radio and satellite signals within a 1-mile radius. On the surface, armored vehicles reinforced their positions, ensuring they were ready to provide fire support should any activity emerge from the exit. Below, the EOD robot stopped before a deep curve, where the tunnel split into 2 branches. The camera transmitted images showing footprints and fresh tire tracks. The technical team reported the possibility of pressure-detonated mechanisms placed along the walls. The 3-step inspection order was issued. Locate the heat source, neutralize the traps, prepare to breach. The vanguard team refitted their helmets, turning on their red indicator lights. Each person connected their safety line, slowly descending using anchored cables. In the narrow beam of light, there was only cold moisture and the steady sound of transmitting equipment. All units were ready for the subterranean engagement. The tunnel door burst open, the assault team poured through like a wall of pressure with a single objective: immediately secure the position of Rafael El Jaguar Morales. Each person in the response team followed protocol. Secure the perimeter. Isolate the target. Tighten the cordon around every direction of movement. Suitcases flew. Money and equipment scattered across the ground. Morales attempted to crawl toward the getaway vehicle but was instantly tackled under the synchronized force of 3 assault teams. 2 bodyguards attempted to fight back but were immediately incapacitated. The order to capture him alive was executed without compromise. There was no time for ceremony. The scene security teams rushed into action, separating the target, cuffing him, securing the position, while the scene lockdown order was activated for the entire area. Armored vehicles formed a line of defense, creating a physical firewall between the operational zone and the civilian area. Port security and district police deployed an outer cordon to prevent vehicles from approaching. All mobile communication in the vicinity was temporarily jammed as per protocol to neutralize any rescue attempts or remote signal activations. The forensic team began evidence collection using the chain of custody procedure. Close-up photos, full-scale drone footage, sealing each suitcase, collecting fingerprint samples, and recording initial on-site statements. 2 crates on the getaway truck were opened under the supervision of technical specialists. Inside were mechanical parts, optical scopes, and disassembled, coded weapon components. All physical evidence was packaged in sealed bags, tagged, and logged before being loaded onto specialized vehicles for transport to the Federal Secure Warehouse. Meanwhile, the EOD and technical teams swept the area around the tunnel entrance and the truck. EOD robots continued to scan all suspicious compartments, prioritizing the neutralization of any potential time-delayed explosives placed along the escape route. A small remote control device was found clipped to the truck frame. The EOD team disabled the device within minutes, and the technical schematics were seized as evidence. All electronic evidence phones, laptops and storage drives were powered down, tagged, and transferred directly to the Mobile Technical Analysis Unit. The field medical team conducted immediate focused first aid. Wounds from shrapnel and blasts were given basic treatment. 3 seriously injured bodyguards were immobilized and transferred by stretcher to tactical ambulances for transport to a medical facility. There were no sensationalized descriptions of the casualties, only preliminary medical reports, isolation, and processing according to procedure. Medical and technical personnel coordinated closely to both preserve lives and protect the surrounding evidence. Immediately upon Morales' isolation, the electronic investigation team initiated the data collection process, encrypting the backup of storage drives, extracting locked communication logs, and simultaneously documenting metadata. The jamming equipment maintained its operational zone to prevent any remote data erasure attempts. All retrieval operations were logged to ensure legal admissibility when transferring the investigation files. Patrol teams expanded the network of checkpoints around the industrial park. Drones flew continuous loops. Thermal cameras swept the entire area for any signs of abnormal movement. The on-site financial intelligence team began comparing the list of addresses and company names retrieved from the storage drives with transaction records downloaded from the workstation. All connections were assigned a priority index to facilitate account freezing and supplemental search warrants. Before pulling forces back to the processing area, the campaign commander issued a 2-pronged order: continue the scene lockdown until all evidence was transferred to a secure facility, and simultaneously deploy follow-up investigation teams to lock down the financial fronts and logistical bases already identified. All movements, from the evidence transport vehicles to the special investigation teams, took place under a layer of strict security control. As the specialized teams moved evidence onto dedicated transport vehicles, the chain of custody control team cross-referenced every seal tag, signed off, and compiled a detailed log. Any discrepancies, no matter how minor, were recorded for eventual prosecution. Morales was placed in an armored vehicle, escorted to a high-security detention facility. The escort process was executed with maximum security measures to prevent any intervention. Although the focus was on capturing the target, other activities were carried out urgently. Freezing the financial network, securing several other listed warehouses, and beginning the execution of expanded search warrants. The entire sequence of actions in the industrial park was executed meticulously, focusing on 2 parallel objectives: preserving evidence and blocking all escape avenues to ensure that the capture of Rafael El Jaguar Morales was not just a tactical victory but a sustainable legal victory. When Rafael El Jaguar Morales was escorted out of the industrial park, the entire area remained sealed in silence. Armored vehicles stood guard on the main arteries, red lights reflecting off the gray dust left behind after the raid. All units were ordered to maintain position until the inventory and evidence transfer process was complete. In the cold storage facility, forensic personnel and technicians continued working non-stop. The preliminary assessment team logged over 7 tons of sealed narcotics, along with numerous components, weapons, and electronic devices used for concealment. All were numbered, tagged with identification codes, and transferred onto specialized vehicles heading directly to the federal storage facility. Under the supervision of a Federal Bureau of Investigation representative, every package was weighed, photographed, and logged. All deviation, however small, was recorded. The DEA was responsible for chemical analysis of samples and cross-referencing them with the International Narcotics Database to determine the source of processing. In the mobile command vehicle, technical experts began decrypting the storage devices Morales was carrying. The chain of financial transactions clearly appeared on the screen. Money was routed through Panama, Honduras, and El Salvador, then returned to Mexico via a chain of shell companies. Satellite logs confirmed multiple containers originated from the same port, using industrial cargo as a form of disguise. The flow of money, goods, and personnel formed a closed loop, a scale far exceeding a local cartel. A provisional report was sent directly to Washington. The FBI director signed an order to expand the investigation beyond borders, coordinating with U.S. intelligence agencies and South American partners. The objective: to sweep the entire financial network, suppliers, and logistical partners that supported Rafael Morales. Simultaneously, an order was issued that day to freeze the assets of related companies. Banks were requested to provide records of suspicious transactions within the last 12 months. On the ground, the forensic team finalized personnel statistics. 47 suspects arrested, 14 injured, and 3 fatalities in the engagement. 6 federal agents sustained minor injuries, were given first aid, and safely transferred to the hospital. Medical reports were compiled separately and attached to the operational file. All evidence from weapons and cash to electronic documents was sealed and cross-signed by 3 parties: the FBI, DEA, and federal police. As the final escort convoy left the industrial park, the flashing lights gradually dimmed. The wind from the port swept through the charred container husks, carrying a faint smell of smoke. On the command screen, the narcotics data graph remained dense, covered with red connecting lines like a spiderweb, a sign that a global smuggling system still had many links yet to be broken. In Washington, the Department of Justice held a brief press conference. The spokesperson announced, "A coordinated operation between the FBI, DEA, and security agencies has thwarted the largest transnational drug trafficking route ever recorded on the west coast of the United States." They did not detail the nationality of the suspects or disclose identities, only emphasizing that the source of the goods was linked to international criminal organizations under investigation. The seized vessel, the Santa Esperanza, remained anchored in Long Beach under lockdown. The cargo had been moved, but the hull was retained for technical investigation. Every patch of paint, every weld mark was logged, tracing how many other shipments had traveled the same route. The final report for the operation, codenamed Iron Tide, concluded concisely: primary target subdued. Cargo fully recovered. North American network initially dismantled, but the international coordination level remains active. The operation is considered phase 1 of a plan for expanded global pursuit. As the last daylight faded over the port, the special task units withdrew from the scene, leaving the industrial park isolated behind the federal yellow crime scene tape. The raid had ended, but the hunt for those behind Rafael Morales, the hands controlling the flow of illicit goods from afar, had only just begun.